Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning back into the Speakers Bureau. We really appreciate you coming in to hear what we talk about. And for those of you that have never tuned into the Speakers Bureau before, this program is to encourage, to motivate, and to inspire our students and our community. So it's called the St. Lucie County Speakers Bureau. And we have people from all over the community that come as a guest and share their life stories. These are people who we feel have been successful in life. And so we want, through their story, we want to inspire everyone in our community. And so today we have someone really special with us today. We have Mr. Terence O'Leary, and he is the Chief Operating Officer here in St. Lucie County Public Schools. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For coming and because I know your schedule is insane. I know how busy you are. I know you wear many, many hats.
Yes, ma'am.
And so for you to take the time out to come and talk to our community about, and open up about your own life.
Brilliant.
You know, so that we can inspire and encourage and motivate someone else is real special. And we don't want you to even for a moment think that we don't appreciate it tremendously, the time that you have put in to be here with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Looking forward to our conversation.
All right. So let's start out with what exactly does the Chief Operating Officer do?
So the Chief Operating Officer is a role I've been in for over 6 years now. When Mr. Jen arrived, he was looking for somebody who specifically had different skill sets that could match lots of the departments that I oversee. So several of the departments that I oversee are transportation, food service, IT, safety and security, and a lot of those work hand in hand, believe it or not. Things that go on early mornings before our students even wake up in the morning. We have the capabilities to make sure that all our systems are up and running. And that's early morning, so that's a 5 o'clock start time.
Before anyone gets up and gets ready to come
our
to
bus,
school.
yeah, exactly. Our bus drivers are up. They're coming in. We want to make sure that we're ready to pick up the children. Our food service individuals are coming in and starting the early morning cooking, so we want to make sure the gas and power are on. Our facilities folks, making sure that the HVAC systems are up and running. And then IT is a tool we leverage because we can talk to all of those devices throughout the county. So every morning at 5 in the morning, all of the department heads and all of those individuals that have those early morning tasks, we get notified that all systems are up and running and we can be prepared for the students. If they're not up and running, then we can go ahead and triage that to make sure that we get them up timely before the students arrive on campus or during the day. So lots of our work, and my work with my teammates, is making sure we're being proactive and making sure that every part of facility, every transportation and bus, every part of a student's day is very well maintained and ready to go so that our students can come to us and learn in the best environments.
We appreciate what you do. Many times we think of the teacher, but what you do is with everyone else that makes sure that our district is running smoothly for our children.
Exactly.
And so the importance of, like you mentioned, transportation, having that run smoothly, having our bus drivers trained on how to deal with our students, starts a student day. Many areas that you mentioned actually starts the student's day. If the IT department is not working well, everything kind of just falls. And there's, you know, or the air condition or the maintenance or whatever. You deal with all of those departments.
Correct.
And gosh, we sure do appreciate you and the staff and the support staff.
Absolutely. The beauty of what we do behind the scenes matches the mission and the vision of our district, providing safe and caring schools. And if you look at all those departments, that matches that mission wonderfully. To your point, bus drivers are the first individuals that see our students, and the caring voice and welcome in and making sure they're on time to school for learning, to eat breakfast. That really, those individuals on a daily basis put our mission into action every day.
And as you just mentioned that, I think about that student that based on what they experience before they get in that classroom could make a huge difference in their entire day once they're in the classroom and they're ready to learn. What happens previously makes a huge difference in that child's life.
Absolutely.
What I want you to do now is I want you to go back in time and share with us your childhood and how you chose, you know, as you got teenage years and any challenges you had, and just talk to us about your life story right now.
Sure. So my life, we began in New Jersey.
Okay.
But I'm from a very large family. And
What part of New Jersey?
so we're in the north New Jersey, so that was in Sparta, Lake Mohawk, New Jersey. It's where we grew up with a large family. I'm one of 7, so I had 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and we're extremely close with that. My family first was from New York City, so when we moved to the outskirts in New Jersey, none of the family had licenses, driver's licenses, or any of those types of things. We used busing and subways and those types of things. So I think moving out to the New Jersey, we were all a tight knit. Plus back then, when you grew up, I have 5 brothers. We all stayed in one room. You had the boys' room, and my 2 sisters stayed in the girls' room, and we had my parents' room, and one bathroom. So there were many challenges and learned opportunities on how to respect everybody's space as a group. But growing up in a large family brought a lot of joy to us. Even to this day, we're extremely close. My mother and father really instructed us about family by how the importance of helping your family, being there for your family, working with each other. We always had a good pickup team for a basketball team because it was 5 of us and we could go down and play. We had a football team, and if my mom needed help.
Where did your sisters come in? Were
Well,
they older ones, younger ones?
So if I'm the second youngest.
Okay.
So my oldest sister is Maureen. She's 10 years older than I am. I'm an Irish twin, which means my brother was born right after I was born. So he was in my mother's room, and I was raised by my sister.
You're actual twins?
We're
or
not
you're
actually twins.
Just close.
Just
like 9
close,
months
and
then
yes,
that
ma'am.
Was immediately, okay.
You know, good Irish Catholic family. And so that was important for my mother because my brother stayed in my parents' room, and my sister would do the night feedings with me, change me, those types of things. So family, we learned to rely on each other, and still do to this day.
Did mom and dad work? Or?
So my dad was a nuclear engineer for the Army, yes. So the nuclear weapon, the tip of it is where the nuclear portion, that's where he focused his learning. So he was with the government for over about 40 years. He worked for the government in that realm. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, which was super important.
Yes.
That she was often there in the morning when you returned at home at night after your jobs. Mom was the matriarch of our family, and always knew where all 7 of us were, getting us to practices or getting us to school on time.
Superwoman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In addition to that, she was also a daycare provider. And back then, the restrictions were much different, but we would have close to 20 individuals in our house
Did she have to have a
toddlers.
license even? At that
She
back
didn't
then?
have her license, but she valued education. So she finally got her college degree when she was 72 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And she used that as part of her driving force to
Oh
make
my
sure as they
gosh.
changed the regulations, she went back to school and she graduated from the local community college. So she could have her certificate, and many of those children that came through our house stayed in our beds for nap time. When she passed, wrote some lovely letters, because my mom couldn't remember everybody's name, including our own.
How old
so
was she when she passed?
81.
Okay.
But everybody was known as Sweet Sweets Buttercup. Everybody had a nickname, and they cherished it. And when she passed, Buttercup wrote a beautiful letter saying how much she valued and how much she got from Sweet Sweets, because that's what everybody called her, Sweet Sweets, at her house, and how much impact she had to
So
the
she
community.
was called Sweet Sweets. Who's Buttercup?
Buttercup is one of the kids that she
One of the
couldn't
kids.
remember the name, but
Okay.
you were Buttercup. And
Everybody was Buttercup?
Nope,
No,
you had
just
Petunia, you had whatever she could think of.
Okay.
Had a
We
name.
just wanted to make sure we
Yeah,
got that clear.
Exactly. So she had lots of nicknames. So that was our environment in our house. There was more neighborhood kids at, our table might have 14 people at it. Didn't have a lot of food to go around, but it didn't matter. Everybody had somebody there, and some kids would stay after, or the parents were working late, so they were eating dinner with us. But the family table in a small house was one of the most important times a day that my mother and father made sure that everybody was at. You could bring individuals, friends, other individuals to the table, but everybody was going to be at the table.
Now, going back to your mom, 72 years old, you said she graduated from college?
Yes.
Wow, that shows that there's hope for everyone out there, no matter what age you are. I just,
And the learning curve.
yes.
So I was going through university at the same time, but and I knew she would be in the library and she'd be just writing, constantly writing. I said, Mom, they have a copier machine. Sweet Sweets, what is that? It's a copier machine, Mom. It takes that. You don't have to write everything so you can go study. You can just copy it, and then you could refer to it. So her learning path, all the way until she passed, was always about improving herself, which became a mantra of us, continuous service improvement.
I so
and when she
appreciate
went-
that. I so appreciate that, because that's where I come from in my
Yes.
thinking, is that we should always be forever learners.
Correct.
And I just started a college class.
Oh,
and,
congratulations.
And I'm volunteering in one of the schools, doing to help me with my college class. It's I'm taking up sign language.
Oh, great.
And so to hear your mom, because I've been thinking, now, what are you doing, girl? Here you go again. Here you go again. Now what are you up to,
Exactly.
But I believe that we should be forever learners. And when we finish one thing, it may take a few years before we start the new thing, but do something to keep the mind going, and to not just keep the mind going, but like you said with your mom, she was a giver to the
Exactly.
community. So, that's another thing. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this sign language stuff, but I know I'm going to help someone. I know
Exactly.
that I'm going to use that to be able to help someone else. So I really
100%.
appreciate you sharing about your mom. And now Dad was the nuclear guy.
So,
What about where do you come in the family unit?
So I'm second to youngest.
The second to the youngest, that's what you said.
So
Yes.
of the 7, I was
You had a
second to
lot
the
of-
youngest.
You had a lot of support.
Exactly. And I think my brothers and sisters prepared my parents for my younger brother and I, so they knew all the tricks. And they knew all the expectations, so you weren't going to fool either of them.
Well, they probably did all of the tricks. so
They
that's how
already
they
learned
did.
it from the older ones. So that is one thing, that family structure and the large family, it just teaches you lots of things. And we had all roles and responsibilities within that family, whether it was dishes, making lunch for the next day for school. Everybody had a role and responsibility, and we switched them up, and it taught us the responsibility of taking care of others. Laundry day, everybody had a role within that
and
household.
With 5 brothers all sharing the same bedroom,
Yep.
we know that you did not come from a wealthy family.
Correct.
So where does that play in your thinking, wealth versus having a good home life, a good supportive system?
So people often ask that, and to me, that is wealth. When you have a family structure and the values and the support that you need, to me, is wealth.
It is.
I think people sometimes are misguided of what wealth and being rich is. We were rich every day, and that was because I had my brothers and sisters, I had my family together as a unit, and even today, as since my mom and dad had passed, the one wish that she had at the end was, I want you all to remain part of each other's lives. Promise me that. And to this day, those are phone calls. I just talk to every Saturday, Sunday. We're talking to each other, talking to the cousins, because that was her wish, to make sure that was the most cherished time, is the Christmas holidays and the families around that table. That's what she wanted.
You talk about that being wealth, and it is very much wealth, and I think about someone out there that don't have that, that did not have that, or don't have it. They understand how much wealth that is to have.
Exactly. Being picked up by my dad at school, and our car had 2 different colored doors, but that was the family car, and that's what we could afford, and it didn't matter for us how we got there. I mean, you bicycled, you do whatever you needed to do. You just didn't go out and get a new car.
Right.
Those were extras. The clothes and everything else, the food around the table, those are the important things. And so for us, those values that people think, intrinsic values, large homes, cars, they're just things. You can't buy a supportive family or a mother or father who value you and tell you that they love you every night before you go to bed. That's the wealth that I'm talking about.
So based on what you're saying now, what or who are you most thankful for, as if I don't know? But
Exactly, exactly. Most thankful for is both my parents, but really my mother. She took a lot of time with me. I had a lot of challenges going through school.
Tell us about some of those challenges.
So we were a very athletic family, so I had lots of opportunities to play football, obviously. My senior year in high school, I would study. I would study very hard. I would have to go to summer school, those types of things. I finally had a teacher come to my family with concerns that I was a hard worker. There was no doubt about it. But any task that would take somebody maybe 15, 20 minutes took me much longer. At that
you're
time.
in good company.
Yes.
Now let me do my thing and sit there and go through it, and I'll
Exactly.
pass it every time for me. But it took me a lot longer. I was always the last person to get up.
Exactly. So the effort was there. It was the results.
Okay.
So by the time I was senior, I had opportunities to play big-time football. But back then in '85, that's when Proposition 48 came out. And you had to have a certain score in your SATs, just as we know today. And an English teacher approached my parents and said, we would like to get Terence tested. We sent him to a psychologist and get him tested and see some things. And that's when I was diagnosed with dyslexia. And not just dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. I had all of them. So,
And didn't know it all that time.
all that
just
time. So
struggled.
sometimes I was struggling, but I was also a very good athlete. And so I worked hard enough to make it to the field, but really never worked on that portion of who I was and where I was headed until it was time for colleges and universities. So to your question is, my mom came in, and it was my 18th birthday, and I just wasn't getting the opportunities. I had a lot of opportunities. I spoke to a lot of colleges who wanted me to come play ball, but I wasn't going to meet their criteria. So for me, being deflated, you know, that was a long-term goal, was to go play Division I football. I was going to go join the service because, listen, I know when I'm an athlete, I was frustrated in the classroom. My mom took it upon herself to find a school. At that time, it had just turned from an all-girls school, and it was a university in Pennsylvania that would work with what they called alternative learners. So my freshman year of college, I ended up getting in because what happens when you look at learning disabled students, if you check them, which I did do in IQ, they have an extremely high IQ, which mine showed that I had a very high IQ, but something wasn't just translating to the process. So the university was very skilled, had a program called Alternate Learners Program, and they taught you how you learned, best for you. So back then we didn't have all the fancy computers, but what we did have was the old tape recorders, the Walkmans. We did have Kurzweiler machines, which were large, looked like scanners, where you could put all your books on, and it would read the books to you. Because some of my issues were, if I sit today and you ask me in 3 years, do you remember that interview I had? I can say, yes, ma'am, I do. And then you were in a black suit, Craig was here, and I knew exactly what it is because I can memorize all of those types of things. So they took us in and they showed us how to learn. And I took summer classes before my very first college class, and a lot of that was on time management skills and how important those were to understand how long it took me to do something. So when I got my syllabus, I knew to schedule out my calendar. So I had a lot of tools like that. I'm an auditory learner. I learn best with these types of conversations. But if I was trying to write, I might be missing the message. So the school offered someone in my classes, university classes, to be my note taker. That someone turned out to be, and it was, you know, that person would just take it. I didn't know who it was, and they would put those notes in a box, and I would pick them up, and along with what I remembered from the course and the notes, I would study that way. Well, that note taker turned out to be my now wife. She went to the same university. She was my note taker. And we happened to be in a study group, and I said, hey, don't worry about it. I have some notes. And I passed them out. She said, these are my notes. And that's where we met. So I learned how I learn best. And then I use strategies to do that. So things...
That is so key.
Yeah, it's very key.
For so many people. And for those that may be out there now that have struggled, through your story, just that part of your story, you're helping them to understand that there's help. If you're determined to get the help, there's help. You have to do some researching. You may have to go to the college or go to
Take your classes.
Right. Take your classes, time management classes. I have a grandson now that just started college, and he's over in FAU now, in Jupiter, the honors college. Very high IQ, but time management and staying focused during the COVID time when we had the kids were online, he completely flunked out. Completely. And we had to take him out of that environment, you know, when it was time to start back to school, because we still had COVID going around. We had to take him out of our public school system and put him in a smaller system that, because he had the extra help, where they were able to zoom in and find out what is it that he needs, and because of the supportive parents he had, that also, you know, did research and so forth, he was able to become an honor roll student. And he got past the SAT, where now he's got a scholarship there at FAU. The honor college accepted him, but he needed that extra help. That's all he needed.
Well, and that's exactly what happened for me. So after my freshman year, I figured it out. And I had a 3.89 GPA. And those calls back from those universities that wanted me to play football, and I mean large universities to go play football, I would get calls back to come play ball again because then now I had a GPA to sustain it. And at that time, I made the decision that I wasn't going to go to the NFL. And that education was super important. And I understood it at this time. And I understood how I needed that help. And then I just ran with it. Graduated within the 4 years. Graduated with a super high GPA. Worked really hard at it with my professors because back then it was in late 80s, early 90s. So this was new to everyone. And no slack. Still do the work. Work extra hard at it. Things didn't come easy, but you work hard at it, and that paid off with as a college graduate.
Yes. We have a couple of people that have come on the Speakers Bureau and have been interviewed, Judy Miller and Gertrude Walker, who had the same issues,
Correct.
Same problems. But they found out how they learned, were able to learn, and then they excelled. So we are almost out of time already.
Great.
But I definitely would love to have you come back at another time so that we can, talk about some stuff and pull some wisdom from your life.
Sure.
One of the things I wanted to ask you was how did you push through your worst times? Because you talked about some real challenges. How were you able to get through that?
So I think it's the theme we are talking about. It's the same theme that you just discussed with your own family, is the supports and the people around you. It matters who you surround yourself with. And for me, that was supportive people that when I became frustrated. And when you're writing dissertations, for me, those are challenging times and frustration times, but making sure that I was leveraging resources to reread my paper. Talking with my mother once a week was just a time for me to reset what are the values and goals that we wanted to get through. So the supportive people that you surround yourself will lift you up at your most challenging times. And it's never about how you start, it's always about how you finish. So even though things may be going good, there's always challenges in anything we do in life. But it's how we finish that and where we end up, that's the most important.
And so you just shared something else that I caught, the supportive people. If you don't have that support at home, you still can find those supportive
100%.
people.
That's how I found my wife.
Yeah, really, just getting out there and I mean, we can go on and on, but we only have 30 seconds.
Yeah, no worries.
But just you've stirred up so much in my thinking about people who, because they had that supportive person in their life, it could have been a professor, it could have been a teacher, just find that person and those people, because the more support you have, the further you can go. We are out of time, but oh boy, did I enjoy your interview. And I just feel like as if we just touched the surface of where we could have gone if we would have had another half an hour here. So hopefully you'll be willing to come back at some time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you so much and what you do here in St. Lucie County, and you're just one of those lights that have always shined to me.
Absolutely.
As I've watched you and your work. We're out of time.
Okay.
But thank you, Mr. O'Leary, for coming today. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.